Good day, everyone. Here's our presentation about the story Adaptation, The Journey to the River Sea by Eva Ibbotson. This presentation highlights the significant points of the story, including its characters, theme, point of view, conflict, message, and life lessons. I'm Justina Riel Ramos, together with my fellow groupmates Jake Russell Delfin, Jeremy Abes, and Ronald Allen Enriquez. To formally begin this presentation, here's Mr. Delfin to introduce the story of the journey to the River Sea.
The Journey to the River Sea is an adventure novel written by Eva Ibbotson and published by Macmillan in 2001. It is set mainly in Manaus, Brazil, early in the 20th century and conveys the author's vision of the Amazon River. It is about the journey of an orphaned young girl named Maya who traveled from England to Brazil to live with distant relatives. Little did she know that her journey would not go as planned. This story was about human intrigues and natural wonders of the world around our main character. As she grows as a person and helps her friends to follow their dreams and desires, she learns what is most important to her and where her own future will lie.
To further understand the novel, let us know about the author's background. Eva Ibbotson. Eva Maria Charlotte Michelle Ibbotson Wisner was a British novelist who is known for her children's literature, specializing in children's fantasy and romance. She was born on January 21, 1925 in Vienna, Austria, and died on October 20, 2010 at the age of 85. Eva married Alan Ibbotson in 1947, and they eventually had three sons and a daughter. She's the one who wrote the ecological classic Journey to the River Sea not long after her husband died. This novel was dedicated to him as he was a committed naturalist with a spiritual outlook that had been strengthened by his war service in India and Burma. She thought that at that time that she needed a rest from her usual fantasy stories, though goodness knows the Amazon landscape is fantastical enough in its own right. She also wanted to write a story that was simple and old-fashioned and direct. This novel made her receive the Nestle Smarties Book Prize in 2001 and has been a finalist for all the major British Children's Literary Awards.
As we know who Eva Ibbotson is, let us proceed to the characters of the novel who played an important role in driving the story as a whole. First, our main character, Maya Fielding. Maya is an orphan, and she used to live in a boarding school in England called Mayfair Academy for Young Ladies, wherein all fees were subsidized by her parents' trust fund. Her parents have died in a train accident while traveling in Egypt, and she journeys to the Amazon to live with her relatives, the Carters. Her only guardian is a lawyer named Mr. Murray, and she has a governess, Miss Minton, who she grows close to. She formed close bonds with her friends Clovis and Finn, which joined her journey to the River Sea. And as she excited and mystified by the unexplored Amazon and deeply cares about it once it becomes her own home.
Our next characters are the one who accompanied Maya through her journey, Clovis and Finn. Jimmy Bates, also known by his stage name Clovis, is an impoverished English boy actor who is also an orphan and wants to succeed in his dream of reaching England and his mother. He met Maya while traveling with the acting troupe run by his adoptive parents. He excels in acting and is known for his role in the performance of Little Lord Fauntleroy. Later, Clovis takes Finn's place as heir at Westwood in England. Clovis is kind and sensitive, yet his insecurities and anxiety are mistaken at first for cowardliness, with him having found courage. Using his acting talent to succeed in his dream of reaching England and his mother. He ends the book living like the wealthy successor, Finn Taverner. Meanwhile, Finn Taverner is the son of Bernard Taverner, who is the real heir of Westwood. He had two personalities. One was the Indian side and the other was European. His main goal was to reach Santi, a native tribe, where his mother relatives are. Finn is known to be running away from the private detectives known as the Crows. He was really adventurous and loved to spend time with nature. Not only he as a true good friend to Maya and Clovis, but he wanted to become a doctor who used many medicines from nature and herbal cures.
To continue, let us meet the Carters. First, Mrs. Carter. She is the mother of the Carter twins, Gwendoline and Beatrice, and the wife of Mr. Carter. Furthermore, she only took Maya in for the money that came with her. She is also greedy and demonstrates signs of increasing mental instability towards the end of the book. Second is Mr. Clifford Carter. He is the twins' father and the husband of Mrs. Carter. He is known for his debt in Manaus and is wanted for fraud in England after embezzling the bank where he worked. He is shown to be manipulative and has an obsession with collecting famous people's glass eyes. At the end of the novel, he is sent to prison in the Amazon after failing to pay workers and loan sharks. Mr. Carter is a very mysterious man. He doesn't really care for his family and spends all day in his messy office obsessing over his collection of items.
Maybe you're wondering how Maya ends up with the Carters. Mr. Murray, Maya's lawyer, is the one who informed her that she will be moving to Manaus, Brazil to live with the Carter twins. The Carter twins, Gwendolyn and Beatrice, are the selfish twin daughters of Mr. and Miss Carter, and the main antagonists of the story. They are known as the cousins of Maya. However, they already hated her even though they didn't know her. They are vain, spoiled, and pretty. They only think money, dresses, and chocolate.
And there's Miss Minton, the governess of Maya and a close friend of Bernard Taverner. She is reserved. She is introduced as a tall, gaunt woman. However, she is kind and concerned with routine and proper learning. She is extremely intelligent, having been revealed to have a knowledge of all the plots the children concoct but allowing them to take place. She has a witty and dry sense of humor and is cunning, using deception and acting in order to protect the children from unkind and corrupt individuals, such as the detectives. Miss Minton grows to love Maya and treats her like her own daughter. She finally manages to persuade Mr. Murray to let her and Maya live together in the Amazon.
Following is Mr. Trapwood and Mr. Lowe, known as the Crows. They are the two detectives who search for Finn, the legitimate inheritor, on behalf of Aubrey Taberner. They are greedy, hoping only for money in exchange for the work, and are clumsy and unkind. Two unwittingly comedic individuals, Mr. Trapwood being harsh and tall, and Mr. Lowe being short with a high-pitched tone. They wear only black suits despite the weather. They represent racism towards the natives and depicts this as their downfall, as they are mocked by the tribes, refuse to change out of British attire, and therefore overheat, and are easily deceived by Finn's charred towards the end of the novel due to their irrational prejudices. Lastly, Sir Aubrey Taverner, the father of Bernard Taverner, his third son, a naturalist, and he lived in the Amazon. He is also the grandfather of Finn Taverner. Sir Aubrey Taverner is depicted as an haughty, unforgiving, formidable man in his youth.
Moving on, let's talk about the theme of the story. In the novel Journey to the River Sea, the general theme revolves around the beauty and struggles of life. As the title of the novel suggests, it is about adventure. Thus, it is an exciting story with themes of family and class, the power of friendship, bravery, the importance of nature to the human spirit, the responsibility of an individual for their actions, the importance of embracing new experiences and redemption. Furthermore, it also illustrated what it is like to grow up as an orphan, as well as the awful experiences one might encounter along the way.
Now, let us proceed to the point of view used in the story. The Journey to the River Sea uses a third person point of view. It is narrated by a narrator who exists outside of the story and addresses the characters by name or as he, she, they, and him, he, them. Thus, there is a narrative presence telling the story and referring to the characters in the third person.
Now, we're done with the themes and point of view. Let's now know some of the conflicts portrayed in the story. First and foremost, Maya became an orphan at a very young age as her parents died. Since then, life became rough for her as she had to live with greedy relatives and face the horrid reality. Second is the Carters. They didn't have the intention to take care of Maya. Instead, they took her in just for money that came with her. Their daughters, Gwendoline and Beatrice, also treated Maya unpleasantly as if she's not their relative.
Another is when Finn has heard his father's unhappy stories of living in Westwood. He sailed down the Amazon River to look for the Santee, his mother's tribe, even if he is the her. And as stated, he is running from the crows who wish to force him to go back. On top of that, Clovis, a struggling boy, has a mishap in Manaus and leaves the acting troupe as they fail into debt and are arrested. So he was yearning to go home to England to see his foster mother. And lastly, Finn, Maya, and Clovis planned to make the crows believe that Clovis is Finn, so Clovis pretended to be him. However, things got complicated afterwards. Sir Aubrey Taverner died after Clovis confessed that he is not the real Finn.
Now we are enlightened with some of the problems in the novel. Let us now proceed to the message and life lessons of it. Firstly, there is this saying that instead of loving people and using money, people often love money and use people. This can be reflected on the Carters as they took Maya in just for the money that came along with her, which is awful. This is just reminding us that we should not be greedy. Another life lesson depicted in the story is that even our family is our safe haven. Very often is the place where we find the deepest heartache. Maya perhaps felt this as the Carters had been rough towards her. So, by associating the third message of the story, we should treat others with fairness, dignity, and kindness.
Moving on, the story also conveys that when life is hard, we people tend to change that sometimes. We have to lie. But people, let us remember that lying for our sake is at a stake because it can lead to unfortunate circumstances. Also, being an imposter or pretending to be someone else might be a way of getting success but choosing your thoughts and actions based on values is satisfactory more than anything else. And lastly, let's not judge orphans and treat them as if they are animals. They are just like everyone else who struggles and needs affection. Instead of possessing iniquity, let's have sympathy.
By the way, these are the references used in this analytical activity, which you can browse on the internet. And that marks the end of our analysis on the story adaptation from the journey to the river sea. That's all for this moment. It was our pleasure to have you here. On behalf of my group mates, Jake Russell, Jeremy, and Ronald Allen, I'm Justina Riel. Accept our deepest gratitude for your time today. Thank you and stay safe.